Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Let's settle into our evening with some stillness, silence, and spaciousness, which we can engage through our meditation. So taking this time to allow ourselves to settle, settling in, settling down, relaxing back into being here, being now, being aware, accessing that fundamental nature of the mind beyond the surface level thoughts, reactions, concerns, confusions, fears and frustrations, allowing the mind to settle into its underlying profound nature of stillness, silence, spaciousness, like the true nature of a room, free from clutter, noise, and movement, that inner state which begets peace, well-being, nurturing and nourishing, a deep sense of contentment, a contentment beyond the needs of self and the ways of the world, coming back to that perennial peace, peace, purity, a perfection, the birthright of us all. So with the eyes gently closed, bringing awareness within, away from external things, whilst also breathing out any stress, tension that may have been building in the body through the happening of the day, the happening of the week so far. Feeling into the body with awareness, grounding awareness within the body. Feeling settled, centered, stabilized, present. Before bringing attention to the naturally occurring sensation of our breath, just noticing some touch points for mindfulness, such as our feet connecting with the floor, just mindfully sensing, noticing, feeling our feet against the floor. Noticing our body connecting with the chair, the cushion, or the meditation stool. Sensing that. Sensing, feeling free from thought. Just this neutral knowing and knowing awareness. Knowing free from thought. Free from conditions, conditioning, concepts. Feeling our hands connecting in our lap, or touching the fabric of our clothes. Feeling the air, maybe touching our face. The air connecting with our face. Just noticing. Also noticing some degree of light coming in through the closed eyelids that we perceive as a lightness, a brightness, a color patterning, or just a blankness. And even looking into that lightness, brightness, blankness through the closed eyelids. A forward focused gaze into the space in front through the closed eyelids. And not being distracted by any sounds, particularly the sound of thoughts or the image of thoughts. Choosing to not engage into the activity of thinking, but rather choosing to direct our attention to the naturally occurring sensation of the breath, our reference point for the present moment. Something subtle, something simple, something simple that can lead to something wonderful. A collected focus in the present moment. As the mind moves to a deeper awareness, a deeper concentration, deeper state of mind through simply exercising attention. Focusing on feeling each breath, each individual breath. The in-breath, the out-breath, the beginning of the in-breath, the end of the in-breath, the space, beginning of the out-breath, end of the out-breath, the space, beginning of the in-breath, Noticing these points in each in-breath and out-breath, the beginnings and the endings, and the space between before the next breath happens. Each mindful breath exercising and strengthening attention, focused attention away from distraction, developing calm and clarity away from distortion. Feeling each soothing, life-giving, life-affirming breath, which is also giving life to the mind. A calm, alert mind through simply noticing each individual breath. Feeling the breath at the nose-nostril area, looking into the lightness, brightness through the closed eyelids, using a mental meditative word or two, a mantra if it's helpful, or otherwise just simply noticing the breath. Feeling each breath in each moment, moment by moment, breath by breath. Allowing the mind to settle into that inner stillness, silence, spaciousness, and the experience of peace. Please help yourself to some tea and biscuits. And then we can have some reflections. So it's good to see more people here this evening, even though there's some of the regulars aren't here this evening, but a good collective, maybe in preparation for Ajahn Tiradhammo's session next Thursday. So hopefully we get a good turnout of people for that. I thought this evening to share some reflections on Ajahn Tiradhammo. Ajahn Tiradhammo, yes, a person. The word doesn't describe a person. It's just two Pali words. But yes, a person who I've known since 1989, when I first went to England as a Buddhist monk. And I find that the older, certainly I get, the older we get, then the more we're able to see the longevity of connections with people, friendships that have stood the test of time. And certainly my friendship with Ajahn Tiradhammo is one of those, because we've remained connected since 1989. And he himself ordained as a monk in 1973. So he's been a monk now for 52 years. Quite a long time. And he's born in Canada in 1949, which makes him around about 78. So certainly getting up there with the years. But also with that, there's a sense of great experience that comes as the older we get. So for him, he ordained as a Buddhist monk again in 1973, originally from Canada, went to Thailand and was based at Wat Pah Nanachat, the International Forest Monastery, having also spent time with Ajahn Chah, who was the Thai meditation master of many Western students. And later on, Ajahn Tiradhammo went to England to help out with the development of Buddhist monasteries there. There was a growing interest in Buddhism in England. Initially, Ajahn Sumedho, who was Ajahn Chah's most senior Western disciple from America originally, went there with a couple of other monks and well supported, established a monastery. And then later on, Ajahn Tiradhammo went and ended up being the abbot of a monastery up in Northumberland, the north of England, close to the Scottish border, a monastery that's now called Ratanagiri, or Aruna Ratanagiri. Ajahn Manindo's the abbot there now. He's a New Zealand Buddhist monk. But I'd gone to England in 1989 for a period of time, being the attendant monk for a senior Thai Ajahn, a senior Thai meditation master who was a student of Ajahn Chah, but also sort of a similar age. And he'd been quite busy with his own branch monasteries. He had 10 branch monasteries. His name was Lumpur Ajahn. Had 10 branch monasteries, lots of responsibilities, had some health issues, and it was decided that he could do with a bit of a break and to go to England, give some teaching, some inspiration for the monks there. There's a developing collection of monks and nuns, and many of them had never been to Thailand. And so being able to spend some time with a senior Thai monk from the forest tradition and to get a taste of the gun-ho sort of strict forest practice, which Ajahn Lumpur Ajahn was very much known for. So I was asked to go as his translator. I'd spent some time staying with him at his branch monastery, could speak fluent Thai, knew the etiquette in looking after a senior monk, so was invited and took up that invitation. I'd spent already 6 years in Thailand. And just before I went, I contracted malaria. So Thailand was saying, okay, you're going, we're going to give you something to think about or feel. A gift, a memory from Thailand, malaria. So I wasn't that well when I first arrived in England, and even got quite sick and spent a few weeks in an isolation ward in a hospital, infectious disease hospital. Was able to get out of that, and given that there was like a whole year to be with Ajahn Jun, this Thai meditation master in England, there was plenty of time to be with him, translate his talks, spend time looking around parts of England with him on the invitation of various lay people. But that was 1989, and there was a gathering of the senior monastics from the various branch monasteries around the world. And at that time, Ajahn Tiradhammo had just started a branch monastery in Switzerland in a place called Konolfingen, which was a small town just outside of the large city and capital of Bern. And given there was an interest in Buddhism in Switzerland and also meditation groups there, there was a meditation group in Zurich, Basel, and Geneva. So Ajahn Tiradhammo and another monk, Venerable Chandapalo, they were teaching at these meditation groups. And with that growing interest, doing retreats as well. But they also were thinking of having a forest monastery, and not just an apartment, because it was an apartment that was they were basically established in. So after about a year or so in when I was in England, they had been able to acquire a forest monastery about an hour up from Bern in a high mountain valley at a place called Kundersteg. And they called the monastery Dhammapala, and they needed another monk. And so I was invited to go there and to be a second senior monk, because Venerable Chandapalo, he'd moved on elsewhere. I think he'd gone to Thailand. So I was there, and also another monk, Venerable Jayamano, a German monk. It was good to have a German monk because we're in the Swiss Deutsch part of Switzerland, speaking German, and Ajahn Tiradhammo didn't speak German. He spoke Canadian English, maybe a bit of French, and Thai. So having a German monk was really, really helpful. I was trying to learn German, failed. But being there was a wonderful experience, a beautiful, beautiful monastery in a beautiful part of the world, and great walks that we'd have, like one day each week would be a walking day. There wasn't a routine that day apart from get a packed lunch and go out and into the mountains and walk. So very, very healthy, clean air. Sometimes, obviously in the winter, snow, and the snow would be 1.5 meters deep, which brought its own particular interesting experiences. But I was there for about 1.5 years with Ajahn Tiradhammo. At times he would go to give retreats in Germany, France, also visit the monastery in Italy, and also England, and visiting his family in Canada. So I would take over looking after the monastery at times, which was fine. wasn't too difficult to look after things. Swiss people are very well behaved. Everything's very sort of ordered, and things run like clockwork. Best clocks and watches in the world. So an easy monastery to look after. And especially also the responsibility of going each month to Zurich, Basel, and Geneva on the train to teach at the meditation groups there as well, which was a great joy. Ultimately, I obviously ended up leaving the monastery, decided that I'd been a Buddhist monk for 11 years, and was either going to be that I'd stay on and then maybe in time have my own monastery, maybe in Germany or elsewhere, or leave, come back to Australia and start a new life with the learnings, the understandings, the experience, realizations that I'd had in being a Buddhist monk. And at that time, I felt that that I'd learnt and understood a great deal, and that the next arena of learning would be in the broader space of regular life. And also in that continuing to help and support people as Buddhist monks do, and also as psychologists do. So I left the monastery, came back to Australia, studied psychology, and started a meditation group in Sydney, which ultimately we are now the sort of the ongoing result of that. But over the years, I've maintained a connection with Ajahn Tiradhammo because he eventually was invited to take up the role of abbot in New Zealand. They needed another senior monk there because the other senior monk who was the abbot had left and gone back to Canada to spend some time with his mother. She wasn't well, she had cancer, so Ajahn Tiradhammo, he remains a monk, but they needed another monk. So Ajahn Tiradhammo, given that he hadn't learned German, and they probably needed to have a German abbot in Switzerland, which happened with Ajahn Khemasiri taking over his German. So Ajahn Tiradhammo was in New Zealand for, I think, about 7 years, and in Wellington, the monastery there, Bodhinyana Monastery, which is another lovely, lovely monastery. I've not visited there myself, but certainly the photographs look wonderful. And following on from that, I think Ajahn Tiradhammo reached a certain age where they wouldn't renew his visa. So he became the true sense of a mendicant monk, homeless, and there was no monasteries available for him to take up the senior monk abbot's role. So he did a very important duty, which was looking after monasteries when the senior monk needed to take a break, do their own personal retreats, or go and visit family. So he'd sort of rotate around the world, spending time in Sydney, the monastery there, or up in Brisbane, or in Thailand, spent quite a bit of time in Thailand, and other monasteries in Europe as well, and certainly giving retreats. So I certainly, when he was in New Zealand, I would invite him to come over to Sydney, or if he was coming over anyway, he'd come and stay with me, to look after the Thursday evening meditation group, have a Sunday or Saturday meditation day, and connect with people. So that's continued. That's continued. And at the moment, Ajahn Tiradhammo is based at Wat Buddha Dharma, which is just outside of Sydney, up at Wiseman's Ferry, where I first started my monastic life. And the abbot is Ajahn Kemavaro, but Ajahn Tiradhammo is the most senior monk there, and has a bit of a background role. Ajahn Kemavaro likes to be up front, giving the talks out there, moving around and so forth. Ajahn Tiradhammo sort of likes to have things a bit quieter, which is very much his nature. Though he does enjoy spending time with people, as you'll find out next week, and maybe as you already know from meeting him. But in the process of his monastic life, he's written several books. And some of you maybe already have his books. And so I thought, given that he'll be here next Thursday, sitting here talking, good to have an awareness of some of the books that he's written, especially if you have them and might like to ask some questions about some of the things in the books. So, for example, he's written a Treasury of the Buddha's Teachings. So selected translations from the Pali Canon with commentaries by Ajahn Tiradhammo, that goes through all the significant Buddha's teachings, the Buddha's discourses. So lots of things there that he's studied and looked into, and looked at translations, commentary, and so forth. So great understanding in the Buddha's teachings. Another very good book, Contemplations on the Seven Factors of Awakening. So the seven factors of awakening, or the seven enlightenment factors, are a set of 7 factors that the Buddha pointed out as being fundamental, significant, important for the mind realizing reality, realizing truth, waking up. And so that he's written this book on those, and just read out what they are. So we have mindfulness, first factor, investigation of the Dharma, investigation or contemplation of truth, energy, joy, tranquility, concentration, samadhi, and equanimity. And then he writes about the 7 factors together and how they work for awakening. So that's something to be very, very open to speaking on. And then also another great book or manual, Working with the 5 Hindrances. So the 5 hindrances, as many of you are aware, are those five things, 5 sort of mental factors which are hindrances to clarity, to concentration, to calm, to insight, to peace, to well-being, that manifest not just in meditation, but in daily life as well. They're the things that cause us distraction and disturbance. So those being thoughts of sense desire, so getting caught up in thinking about pleasant things, distracting from focusing on the task at hand. So just sense thoughts, sense distractions, thoughts of ill will, anger, getting caught up in angry, negative thoughts. Then mental dullness, the mind becoming dull and drowsy, not because you're really tired, but because of just wanting to dull out. Don't want to deal with this, dull out. The mental dullness, and then mental agitation, the mind becoming reactive, agitated, unsettled. Again, difficult to meditate when that's happening in the mind. And the last one are thoughts of skeptical doubt. So not reasoned, rational, wise doubt, but just getting caught up in unreasonable, irrational doubt or skeptical doubt about things. But these 5 things hinder or hold back the mind from its natural, fundamental state of clarity, purity, and peace. Certainly, they're what we need to be on the lookout for, in case they sort of encroach into our mind in meditation. And when the mind is free from these 5 hindrances, that's when the mind is collected, concentrated, and can go into deeper states of meditation. Samadhi, concentration, or jhana, absorption meditation. So Ajahn Tiradhammo's manual on working with these five hindrances. And his last book, most recent book, which came out a couple of years ago, which is even heavier, more pages. This one's got 341 pages. So quite a hefty book. And many of the times that he would be visiting me either in Sydney or up here, he was in the process of writing his book, still not finished. So a couple of years ago, it got finished, Beyond Eye Making, which is one of the most interesting, fascinating, yet challenging ideas to understand in Buddhism. How the I, the sense of self, ultimately isn't anything that's static, stable, or even ultimately real, that it's a psychological construct. The sense of self is a psychological construct. Yes, the mind creates and makes this construct for the purpose of interpersonal interactions and relating. It's like a processor. It's an operating system, helpful, but at the same time, if the mind doesn't truly realize it's just a helpful operating system, a communication device, and an iPhone. The I is like an iPhone for collecting information, collating information, calculating information, communicating information. Then the mind gets caught up thinking that the self is the main thing, protecting the self, looking after the self, indulging the self. And in a way, our meditation is taking a break from the self to realize that the self is just a construct. So Ajahn Tiradhammo's book, Beyond Eye Making, is helping to realize and understand how the eye making happens, particularly through the process of identification, the mental faculty of identifying something, identifying with it, then identifying as it and from it. So that's a whole mental process that happens very, very quickly. And so that by understanding that we can then therefore not personalize things so much, whatever it might be, because whatever we're personalizing, making the sense of self out of, is in time, is a construct, is conditioned, is compounded, and is subject to change. And when it does change, then there's distress often. So being able to be aware of how that process works, and at times for the mind to be totally free from eye making, such as in deeper states of meditation. So this is the book. Some of you do have this book. I do have a few more copies left, which we can hand out either on next Thursday, or on the meditation retreat day. The theme of the meditation retreat day next Sunday, not this Sunday, next Sunday, is Beyond Eye Making. So Ajahn Tiradhammo will talk further about aspects of his book, but also if you have either read the book, read parts of it, or not, it's a really good time to ask questions. Ask questions from a monk who's been a monk for over 50 years and has had a lot of experience, and is very well studied and well read, and also well practiced. So a very, very special thing to be able to be here, to be with Ajahn Tiradhammo and to ask him some questions. It might be a really significant life-changing experience. There's not many monks around that are Western monks that have been monks for 50 plus years. And so it's rare. And he would be one of the most senior monks generally in Australia, including all the Thai monks and Burmese monks and Sri Lankan monks and Chinese, Korean, Vietnamese monks, Tibetan monks, etc. But particularly one of maybe the most senior Western monk. So a special occasion to spend some time with him. In the last 5 minutes, any questions about Ajahn Tiradhammo, about any protocols, how to address him, or anything like that? Susanna?
How to address him? That was my question.
Sure, yeah. So people usually call him Ajahn. So Ajahn is a Thai word, the Thai language, from the Pali, the language, language of early Buddhism. The Pali word is Acharya, which means teacher. And so the Thai rendering of that is Ajahn, which also includes a school teacher. If you're a school teacher, you're called Ajahn. But particularly senior monks are called Ajahn. You can call him Ajahn, you can call him Venerable. You can call him Bhante, which is a Pali word that means venerable. And usually, if you want to address a monk, at the protocol or politeness is to put your hands together like this, and then they can see that you want to ask a question, rather than sort of, so put your hands together like this. And you can even, whilst you're asking the question, Ajahn, I'm wondering about your book, and have you had any feedback from psychologists about your book? And so you put your hands together, and then when you finish your question, you can put them down. And then he says, oh, yes, well, et cetera, and then you say, thank you, Ajahn. And also in greeting a monk or nun, at hands together and sort of or even up to the forehead like that, sort of sign of respect.
John, do you know if he's writing anything at the moment?
I don't think so, but I don't know for sure. Could be a good question. Yes, could be good to find out. So who was here last year? I think it was around March for his visit. A few people. Yeah, that's good. Yeah, he's easy to look after. So I enjoy having him here. He'll be here for 5 days from Wednesday afternoon. Brendan and I are picking him up from the airport, and then he's going back on Monday afternoon. So I've taken that time off from seeing clients and taking him on a few drives, maybe out to the hills somewhere, and have a look at some things. Even over the next few days, or until certainly next Thursday or Sunday, think about, okay, so if there's a senior Buddhist monk who's been a monk for many, many years, and obviously a lot of experience in being a monk, yes, a meditator, understanding the Buddha's teachings from a real practical experience, living them, what question would it be good to ask? What would be a good question to ask that would help me and that would maybe change my life? And also given that there'd be quite a few people, so that you don't want to ask a silly question. Ajahn, can Buddhist monks have dogs? Unfortunately, in Thailand, often the monasteries get lots of dogs coming in and staying there. So think about what could be a good question. You could even ask me, if you don't have a question now that you want to sort of query, but even next Thursday or the Sunday, you know, oh, John, would this be a good question to ask the Ajahn? I was going to ask this, and I might say, oh, that's great, or don't ask that, that's too embarrassing. Any other questions or comments?
Do you think it would be a silly question to ask him how does he feel about Canada taking over? by Trump.
About.
But Canada taking over by Trump.
Oh, right, right.
No,
Right.
just go
Well, if he's relaxed and sort of informal, like just sitting outside, you can ask him that. You might get what he truly feels. If you ask him in a public arena, he might sort of give a different answer. So on the Sunday, if you're coming for that, then bringing a plate of food to share. And so Buddhist monks and nuns need to eat their main meal of the day, which is or any food before noon. So they can have a breakfast if they want, but their main meal has to be eaten before 12 noon. So whilst we're still on daylight saving, that is 1 o'clock, which makes it a bit easier. So because the sun's about the sun, not the hands on the clock. So 12 noon sun time. And so we'll probably have the meal probably around about 11:30 or close to 12, but he can eat his food up until 1. And as far as I know, he does eat meat and fish. He may prefer vegetarian food, but generally, if you're a Theravada Buddhist monk, to be able to be open and receptive to Thai people that come. Thai people eat meat, and monks shouldn't be choosing what they eat. So Thai people just bring what they eat, leftovers, some chicken curries and whatever. And so the monks accept that. Some monks that might be very strict, they might accept it, thank you, and but maybe don't eat it, just put it in the bowl. But certainly most sort of Asian, Southeast Asian people where Theravada Buddhism is, they will eat meat. Burmese, Sri Lankan, Thai, the Buddhist monks do eat meat. Generally in monasteries, particularly in the West, it's preferred to, sort of vegetarian food is seen to be a bit more ecologically, environmentally healthy and sound. So there's sort of a suggestion of that. But generally Buddhist monks eat meat as long as it's not raw. They can't eat like sushi. The Buddha said that monks shouldn't eat raw meat. And also certain meats from certain animals shouldn't be eaten, which includes snake. When I was a Buddhist monk in Thailand, I have eaten rat because that's what the villagers would eat. Some field rat in the dry season. The rats get out and they're sort of eating the rice from the rice sheds. So the villagers would go out and they would make handmade muskets, sort of shotguns, and shoot them. And so that they'd eat them just like a roasted rabbit, little rabbit. And give this one to the monks. Let's shock the Western monks, give them some rats. So anyone who still wants to come on the Sunday retreat day but hasn't yet registered? So there's going to be certainly plenty of space. So so even if you need to decide it's sort of close to the date, then just you can always just send me a text if you need to, or an email to say, John decided I've got the day off from the family duties. I'd like to come. Great. So great to have a good sized group this evening and share some words about Ajahn Tiradhammo. And obviously next Thursday, he'll be here to offer some reflections and teaching. So hopefully you're free to come and share in that, and also on the Sunday as well. So have a great week and see you then.